Welcome back, everyone. This is Sir Ahmed Hassan, and today we're going to complete the second part in our series of literature. We mentioned last time that literature can be divided into three parts: novel, poetry, and drama. Today we're going to start the part of poetry and the basics of poetry. So let's start. First of all, I have to know that there's a big difference between the poetry, the poem, and the poet. The poetry is the art of writing poems. Okay, so what is a poem? As you see here, I have a group of lines, and this kind of lines, they have a kind of music, okay, and they show me a kind of theme in these kind of poems or written works. And the one who's writing the poetry, his name is a poet. And we have lots of famous poets in English. And I think that the most famous one is William Shakespeare, and we have also John Milton and so on. Okay, so if we move to the next part here, I can see that if I want to teach the young children the poetry, I should teach them that there is a strong relationship between the music or the melody and the poetry. And whenever we have more music in the poetry, we're gonna have more rhyming words, and it will be a perfect one. And I want to teach them how to make that. So I have a word like sun. They have the same sound like in run. They can give me more words like gun, bun, and so on. Can, man, give me more. Fan, yes. Ran, excellent. See, okay. Be, tree, me, we, and so on. Okay. So you will ask the children to give you more rhyming words, or anyone who's learning to give you more rhyming words, and that will make it entertaining for him. He would like to learn poetry in eagerly, or he will love learning more about poetry. Okay. The next one here, if I talk about the difference between the stanzas and the paragraphs, if I talk about the poem is divided into stanzas, okay, into stanzas. So I have here stanza number one, stanza two, stanza three, and so on. In the paragraphs or in the essay, I divide it into paragraphs. I have paragraph number one, paragraph number two, paragraph number three, and so on. Like this one is an example of the paragraph. It's divided into sentences, okay? And as you see here, they are moving after each other. Unlike in the stanzas of the poetry, I have them divided into lines, as you see here, and they are not moving after each other. I have line one, line two, three, four, and so on. Okay, unlike in the paragraph, I have sentences following each other. I do not separate them. Unlike in the poetry, I have lines under each other, and I do not have to stick them together. Okay, so that's the major difference between the stanzas and the paragraphs, or poetry and poems and essays. Okay, if we move here to the next point, we can see that the stanzas, they have different names. If I have a two-line stanza, I call it couplet. If I have here three-line stanza, I call it tercet. Four-line stanza, quatrain. Five-line stanza, I call it cincum. Six-line stanza, I call it sestet. Sestet. Seven-line stanza, I call it septet. Eight-line stanza, I call it octave or octet. Okay, so these are the main differences, or the main names of these kind of stanzas if you're gonna explain it, or if you're gonna study it in poetry. Okay, if I talk about the types of poems, I have here three types of poems. Number one, the narrative poem. I have it in the form of a ballad or an epic poem, like a long story or a thing to be sung here. The lyric poem, okay, which is formed or made in the form of sonnet, about 14 lines, a stanza that has 14 lines. And the third part, which is the descriptive poem. I'm describing something, or I'm showing something here for the people to talk about it, okay? Most of the time we have the lyric and the descriptive poems in poetry to be taught for the children or for the students. Okay. If we move here to the figures of the speech or the use of images in poetry, the poets, they need to use some images in poetry to make it a perfect one, and to add some kind of beauty to these kind of lines. Like, for example, the first one here, we call it simile. in the simile, I should know the verbs compare and liken. So I'm using words like as, like, and look like to add or to compare two things together. For example, in one of the poems, which is called Daffodils for William Wordsworth, he said, well, I wander lonely as a cloud. So as here, okay, the poet compared himself to a lonely cloud moving in the sky. So why did he do that? To show how sad he was. He was so sad at this time. Continues at the stars that shine. I'm talking here also about the daffodils or the flowers. They were continuous at the stars that shine in the sky. So you compare the daffodils to the stars using as to show the great number that they have it at this time. In another poem, which is called Night for William Blake, he said what? The moon like a flower. He compared here the moon, okay, to a flower, which is a nice comparison to show also the beauty of the moon at this time. Okay, so that's for the simile. That's for the simile. Okay, if we move in the next part here, I move here to a new part which is called personification. In personification, I'm using the verb personify. Personify. For example, I'm comparing here an object to a human being. I give this kind of object the human qualities. So I see here, for example, I have a tree and I'm so happy after getting the full mark in the exam. I feel like the tree is dancing for me like a human being who is dancing happily. He's so happy because of the result of the exam. So I compare here the tree to a human being who can dance. Let's go back and give an example using the same poem of Daffodils. When he said here, William Wordsworth, when all at once I saw a crowd, I saw a group of the flowers, a host of golden daffodils. What's happening for this kind of daffodils? They are beside the lake, beneath or under the trees. What are they doing, the flowers? Fluttering and dancing in the breeze. They are fluttering and dancing, moving happily in the or dancing happily in the gentle air of the morning. So here the flowers cannot dance, of course, but here William Wordsworth made them dance because he knows that this is a kind of personification. This image here, it gives you somehow a strong image about this kind of flowers. The feet of angels bright. I'm talking here about, let's say, the poem of Night for William Blake. He said here, the feet of angels bright. Can you see the feet of angels? Of course not. So he compared the angels to human beings who have feet and they can move. Okay. Unseen, the poor blessing, they give the people some kind of happiness. So he compared here also angels to a human being who can go to the people and give them happiness or help them in their life. And joy without cessing. Okay, also here, joy or happiness, he compared it to a human being who can give something to the other people. Okay, so that's here the idea of personification. Okay, um, if we move here to the next part, I'm talking here about the metaphor. In the metaphor, I'm comparing two things, an object to an object. Like when you say, for example, time is money. Time is money. Okay. Do we have any way to compare between time and money? Of course not. But because both of them are valuable and both of them are ending quickly, so we say that time is money to show how valuable was the idea of the time and also the idea of the money. And also in the metaphor, you can compare a human being to an object, unlike in the personification. In the personification, you compared an object to a human being, but here I'm comparing a human being to an object. For example, when I said, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Okay, here also from the poem of Daffodils, the daffodils color is yellow, but here he said that they are like gold. Why he said that they are like gold? To show how valuable they were at this time and also how shiny they were. So he compared here an object to an object, okay, to show how valuable the daffodils were to the poet at this time. And then my heart with pleasure fills. Okay, here the poet compared his heart, okay, to a container that can be filled with happiness, can be filled with happiness. Or we can see here that happiness is like a liquid that I can use it to give it to the others. Of course, the happiness, it's an abstract noun. We cannot give it to anyone. So he said here, and then my heart with pleasure fills. And dances with the daffodils. Can your heart dance? Of course not. So this one can be related to the last one, which is personification. Okay, if we move to the next one, I have here something called hyperbole. Hyperbole, I'm exaggerating here about the description or about the events that I'm talking about. Okay, so the poet here in the same poem of Daffodils, he was exaggerating about the effect of daffodils on his mind. He said that continues at the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. The daffodils like the stars which are twinkling on the Milky Way. Okay, they stretch the never-ending line as if they are endless. Okay, so the flowers, of course, I can count them and they are countable, but here he said that they are endless or uncountable. Why? Because he wanted to show that they are so great in number or they are endless. Okay, 10,000 I saw I at a glance. When you look at something for the first time, when you look at something for the first time, can you say that you saw here 10,000 flowers from the first look and glance here at a quick look over something? Of course not. But here there was a kind of exaggeration, but he wanted to say here that the flowers, they changed my mood and they made me very, very happy. Okay, okay. The next one, we have here something simple, which is called contrast. In the contrast, I'm using opposite ideas. Okay, they are not the same. Like when you say ups and downs, like when you say black and white, day and night, and so on. For example, in the same poem of Daffodils, he said here what? For often on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood. In vacant means that you are free, okay? Intensive means that you are busy. So he wants to say here what? If I'm free or if I'm busy, I have only one thing obsessing my mind, which is the flowers or the daffodils, to show the effect of the daffodils over the poet at this time. Here also I wandered lonely as a cloud, the poet is moving alone. And then he said here, I saw a crowd, a host, I saw a group. So the idea of having only one person, and I have also a group, but the group here of daffodils, he wanted to compare his state of being alone to the state of the daffodils where they were also in group and they were dancing and moving happily. Unlike me, the sad one, because I'm moving alone and I have no one around me. I have no one around me. Okay, the next one, I have something called the paradox. The paradox somehow like the contrast, but this one here, I'm talking about the statement which seems to be impossible, but it turns to be meaningful. For example, this is from John Milton on his blindness. He's talking here about that God took his eyesight and he cannot see in a good way. But here he said at the end here, they also serve who only stand and wait. He's talking about that God doesn't need the service of this man if he's not thanking God for everything at the right time, at the joys and at the sorrows. He said here that he was blaming God for taking his eyesight. And he said that those who are moving everywhere are better than me. And I do not like that. I like to move and to serve the God in a perfect way. Here, the patients was sent in this kind of in the second part of the sonnet to answer him. They say that, and post o'er land and ocean without rest. Those are moving and worshiping God by moving and going there and coming here and so on. They are, or they have the same reward of those who only serve while they are standing and waiting. So, can I stand and wait and take the same reward of someone who's serving God while moving and is going to worship God and perform the pilgrimage and so on? Yes. Okay. So maybe at the beginning you feel like it's impossible. How come that someone is standing and waiting and he can take the same reward of someone moving and doing his best? Yes. Okay. So here it seems impossible at the beginning, but when you think about it, it began to be very clear for you. Okay. So let's move to another part here. Okay, I have something called the apostrophe. In the apostrophe, I'm addressing someone who is absent or dead or non-human, as if they are present. For example, the famous song for the children, Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Can you talk to the star? Of course not. This is a kind of being insane. So here, twinkle, twinkle, little star. You're asking the little star to twinkle or to shine for you. Blow, blow the winter wind. Okay, here also you're talking to the winter. Can you talk to the winter? Of course not. Okay, but here when you say blow, blow, you're asking the winter to blow, which is impossible. Okay, so in the apostrophe, you are talking to an object or someone, something not human, as if they are present in front of you or they are in front of you as human beings. Okay, this is a kind of images. It's called apostrophe. Okay, next we have the sound devices. The sound devices here, as we said at the beginning, it's related to the idea of the music, yes, okay. And the poem without music, it will be meaningless, okay. For example, if I'm talking here about the first sound device, it's called alliteration. In the alliteration, I repeat the same consonant sound at the beginning of words. For example, you say Sally sells, the same sound. Okay, the second one, the consonants. If you are talking here or repeating the same consonant sounds, but not at the beginning, no, at the middle or at the end, like sent and went. At this time here, I say this is called consonants. And why did the poet use the letter alliteration or the consonants to add more music to the poem? If you say assonance, you are talking here about the repetition of the vowel sounds in some words like pain, gain. Okay, at this time here, I say this is called, yes, assonance. Assonance. We have five vowel letters that we teach them for the children: A, E, I, O, U, and these sounds are called vowel, or we say for them vowel letters. If I find them at this time, I can say that this is called assonance. The rhyme scheme or the pattern, I'm repeating here some sounds at the ends of the lines, and at this time I can give them one of the letters from the alphabet, like what we're gonna see in the next slide. Okay, let's see here in the next slide. Okay, how can we apply this one? We have here the first stanza of the poem of Daffodils for William Wordsworth. As we said, the poem name is Daffodils, so this is the poem, and it has also another name, I Wandered Only as a Cloud. The poet here is William Wordsworth. Okay, we have here the rhyme scheme at the end. I began to pronounce the sounds at the end loudly. Cloud, out, I give it the letter A. This is the very beginning or the very first letter here. Then I say hills. It's not the same like cloud, so I give it a different letter from the alphabet. B. I move in order, of course. The next one, crowd, like loud. Hills, daffodils, L, the same sound. I give it the same letter, B. So A, B. Trees, it's different. Breeze, it's different. And this is the end of the first part of literature course, the poetry basics. Hopefully you like it. Till we meet again, thank you. This was Sir Ahmed Hassan.